going to say I knew it, but I knew it. Now, this was your idea, too.
Kirstie Alley made millions laugh with her sharp wit in Cheers and her starring roles on TV and film. To the world, she was a larger-than-life star, outspoken, glamorous, and sometimes controversial. But here's the contradiction. While everyone else saw a Hollywood actress, at home, she was simply Mom. After her passing in 2022, she left behind not just her work on screen, but 2 children who meant everything to her. So, whatever happened to Kirstie Alley's kids, William True and Lillie Stevenson? Kirstie Louise Alley was born on January 12, 1951, in Wichita, Kansas. She grew up in a middle-class home, far from the glamour and chaos of Hollywood. Her father, Robert Deal Alley, ran a lumber company, while her mother, Lillian, managed the household. Kirstie was the second of 3 children, with an older brother, Colette, and a younger brother, Craig. From a young age, Kirstie had a bold, vibrant personality. Friends remembered her as funny, outgoing, and a little rebellious. She loved to make people laugh and often said she was born to be dramatic. After attending Kansas State University, she dropped out, feeling restless and unfulfilled. She admitted later that school just wasn't for her. In 1971, with nothing but determination and a love for performing, she packed her things and moved to Los Angeles. At first, Hollywood wasn't glamorous. Kirstie supported herself as an interior designer and appeared occasionally on game shows like Match Game and Password Plus. She even admitted that during this period, she struggled with drug use. Later in life, she credited the Church of Scientology with helping her overcome addiction in the early 1980s. Tragedy struck in 1981 when her mother was killed in a car accident caused by a drunk driver. Her father was badly injured but survived. Kirstie said the loss shattered her but also gave her a new perspective. When you lose someone you love so suddenly, you stop being afraid. I realized life could end in a moment, so I wanted to live it fully. Her break came in 1982 with her very first movie role, the Vulcan officer Savick, in Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. It was a huge part in a massive franchise, and almost overnight she went from obscurity to being noticed in Hollywood. Throughout the 1980s, she took on a variety of roles, slowly building her reputation as a versatile actress. But her true breakthrough came in 1987 when she joined the cast of NBC's Cheers. Taking over after Shelley Long's departure, Kirstie played Rebecca Howe, a businesswoman who was sharp, ambitious, and hilariously flawed. And if you are into classic Hollywood icons, amazing stories, and newly discovered insights, then hit that subscribe button. We are on our way to 10,000 subscribers, and your support will mean a lot to our channel. At first, critics and fans were unsure. Cheers was already one of the most beloved sitcoms in America. Could anyone replace Diane Chambers? But Kirstie made Rebecca unforgettable. Her timing, her physical comedy, and her ability to blend vulnerability with sharp wit won audiences over. By 1991, she had won both an Emmy Award and a Golden Globe for her performance. She wasn't just Shelley Long's replacement anymore, she was the heart of the show. Kirstie followed up her TV success with a string of popular films. In 1989, she starred alongside John Travolta in Look Who's Talking, a comedy about a single mom raising her baby, with the baby's thoughts voiced by Bruce Willis. The movie was a smash hit, grossing nearly $300 million worldwide, and spawned 2 sequels. Kirstie's chemistry with Travolta was so natural that the two remained lifelong friends. By the 1990s, Kirstie Alley was a household name. She headlined her own sitcom, Veronica's Closet, and appeared regularly on talk shows. Her outspoken, often brash personality made her a favorite with fans, and sometimes a target for critics. She was never afraid to speak her mind, whether about Hollywood, fame, or her personal struggles. But while her career soared, Kirstie was also searching for something more. She wanted to build a family, a role that, to her, was even more important than Hollywood stardom. In 1983, at the height of her early career success, Kirstie Alley married actor Parker Stevenson. Parker was already well known from the Hardy Boys mysteries and would later appear on Baywatch. To the public, they looked like a glamorous Hollywood couple, attractive, successful, and madly in love. But their journey together was not without hardship. Kirstie had always dreamed of being a mother, yet she struggled with infertility. She suffered a miscarriage that she described as one of the most painful experiences of her life. In an interview, she admitted, "When you lose a child that way, you feel like your world has ended. I thought I'd never be a mom." Still, she and Parker refused to give up on the idea of family. They turned to adoption, a decision Kirstie would later call the greatest blessing of her life. In 1992, they welcomed their first child, a baby boy they named William True Stevenson, though everyone called him True. 2 years later, in 1994, their family grew again with the adoption of their daughter, Lillie Price Stevenson. Kirstie spoke openly about how adoption changed her life. She once said, "The moment you hold a baby, it doesn't matter if they're biologically yours or not. They're yours. The love is instant, overwhelming, and forever." The couple tried to raise their children away from the Hollywood spotlight. They split time between Los Angeles and Kirstie's sprawling estate in Maine. That property was filled with animals, from dogs and cats to exotic pets like lemurs. For True and Lillie, childhood meant running around in nature, growing up in a setting that was both ordinary and extraordinary. Despite the fairy tale beginnings, Kirstie and Parker's marriage eventually unraveled. They divorced in 1997 after 14 years together. The split was difficult, but both parents stayed committed to raising True and Lillie with love and stability. Parker once said in an interview, "Kirstie is an amazing mother. Whatever differences we had, she always put the kids first," and Kirstie echoed that sentiment. "I may have failed at marriage, but I succeeded at being a mom. My children are my greatest achievement, bigger than any Emmy, any Golden Globe, or any movie role." For Kirstie, motherhood wasn't just a part of her life, it was the center of it. While the world knew her as a bold, outspoken star, at home she was simply Mom, dedicated to True and Lillie above all else. While Kirstie Alley was a household name in Hollywood, at home she was simply Mom. After adopting True in 1992 and Lillie in 1994, she dedicated herself to giving them a childhood that was private, grounded, and filled with love. Instead of raising them in Los Angeles, Kirstie often chose her estate in Maine as their main home. It was a sprawling property with wide open fields, gardens, and plenty of room to play. She wanted her children to grow up far from the paparazzi, in a place where they could just be kids. Animals were a huge part of the household. Kirstie was famously obsessed with them. She had lemurs, dogs, cats, and birds. She joked that her children grew up in a zoo, but she believed it gave them empathy and responsibility. She once said, "If you can learn to take care of animals, you can learn to take care of people." That's the kind of compassion I wanted my kids to have. True and Lillie's childhood was full of simple joys, riding bikes, swimming, exploring the outdoors, and helping care for the animals. Friends of the family recall that despite Kirstie's fame, her kids' lives felt surprisingly normal. Kirstie kept her children away from Hollywood whenever possible. Even when she starred in the reality series Kirstie Alley's Big Life in 2010, she was careful about how much True and Lillie appeared on camera. She explained, "I chose this life in the spotlight. My kids didn't. They deserved to grow up without cameras in their faces." At the same time, Kirstie was a hands-on mom. She cooked meals for her children, helped with their schoolwork, and insisted on family dinners. She created traditions like decorating the house elaborately for holidays and throwing themed birthday parties. Those who knew her said she was warm, funny, and sometimes a little unconventional, a mom who let her kids express themselves, even if it meant messy bedrooms or unusual pets. After her divorce from Parker Stevenson in 1997, Kirstie raised the kids primarily on her own. She admitted that single parenting wasn't easy, but it brought her closer to True and Lillie. She once said, "It was the three of us against the world. They were my reason for everything." As her children grew older, Kirstie stayed just as protective. When True got married at 20 years old, many thought it was too young, but Kirstie defended him publicly. "I got married at 24. If you find love, you find love." I support him completely. For Kirstie, the joy of being a mother far outweighed the fame and accolades of Hollywood. She often reminded people that her Emmys and Golden Globes were wonderful, but they couldn't compare to her children. In her words, "The greatest role I ever had wasn't on TV or in a movie. It was being their mom." Behind the glamorous image, Kirstie Alley built her world around True and Lillie, and that devotion would shape their lives as they moved into adulthood. As Kirstie Alley's children grew older, their lives took different paths, ones that reflected both the values she raised them with and the challenges of growing up as the children of a celebrity. Her son, William True Stevenson, often called True, made headlines in 2012 when he married his high school sweetheart at just 20 years old. To many outsiders, it seemed far too young for marriage, but Kirstie publicly defended her son, saying, "I got married at 24. People told me it was too young too. If you find love, you find love. I completely support him." That decision made Kirstie a grandmother not long after. In 2014, True welcomed his first child, and Kirstie embraced the role of Nana with overwhelming joy. She told one interviewer, "Being a grandmother is better than winning an Emmy. The love you feel is indescribable. You get all the joy and none of the pressure." By 2016, True had given Kirstie multiple grandchildren. She often shared playful posts about them on Twitter, bragging about how much she loved spoiling them. In one memorable interview, she laughed, "The best thing about being a grandma is you get to hand the kids back when they're cranky, but keep all the hugs and kisses." Meanwhile, her daughter, Lillie Price Stevenson, was carving out her own identity. As a teenager and young adult, she became interested in fashion, design, and photography, often sharing glimpses of her creative side online. Unlike her brother, she didn't rush into marriage, preferring to focus on her independence and personal growth. But Lillie's journey wasn't without tragedy. In 2014, when she was just 20 years old, her boyfriend, Nick Trella, died in a motorcycle accident. The sudden loss shattered her. For months, she struggled with grief, and Kirstie became her rock during that time. Friends said Kirstie dropped everything to be at her daughter's side. One insider noted, "Kirstie was tough on the outside, but when it came to her kids, she was pure love." She helped Lillie get through the darkest time of her life. Lillie eventually began to heal, surrounding herself with friends and continuing her creative pursuits. She remained deeply private, but occasionally posted heartfelt tributes to her late boyfriend, reflecting on how the loss shaped her. Through both her children's milestones and struggles, Kirstie's devotion never wavered. She once described parenting as, "Your children are your heart walking around outside your body. Every joy, every pain, you feel it as if it's your own." For True, life meant building a family and stepping away from the Hollywood spotlight, raising his children quietly. For Lillie, it meant navigating heartbreak and growth while finding her own place in the world. Together, their lives showed the two sides of being Kirstie Alley's kids, the privilege of love and support, and the weight of carrying a famous last name. For Kirstie Alley, becoming a grandmother was nothing short of magical. She had poured her heart into raising True and Lillie, but when her son True welcomed his first child in 2014, Kirstie discovered a new kind of joy. From the moment she held her first grandchild, she was smitten. She told one reporter, "Being a grandmother is a different kind of love. You think you felt it all as a mom, and then this new little soul arrives, and your heart grows even bigger." Kirstie quickly embraced her new title as Nana, and she wore it proudly. She spoke often about how much she loved her grandchildren, gushing in interviews and sharing her excitement on social media. On Twitter, she once wrote, "Just when you think life can't get any better, along come your grandchildren. I am the happiest Nana on earth." By 2016, Kirstie had multiple grandchildren, and they became the center of her universe. She often posted about them, joking that she spoiled them endlessly. In one interview, she laughed, "The beauty of being a grandma is you get all the hugs and kisses, you get to sneak them cookies, and when they're cranky, you hand them right back to mom and dad." Friends and family noted that Kirstie glowed whenever she talked about her grandchildren. Her friends described her as the kind of grandmother who never showed up empty-handed. She always had treats, little gifts, or surprises ready. She adored spending time with them, whether it was baking, playing in the yard, or simply telling stories. Her grandchildren also gave her a sense of peace and grounding in her later years. Fame had been a roller coaster, with career highs and public controversies, but her grandkids reminded her of what really mattered. She once said, "Fame is fleeting. Awards sit on a shelf, but when your grandchild runs into your arms yelling, 'Nana,' that's forever." Those close to Kirstie believed that being Nana was her proudest role of all. Even as her health began to decline in the years leading up to her death in 2022, she spoke often about how her grandchildren brought her comfort and happiness. One family member recalled, "Her eyes lit up when she talked about them. They were her whole world." For Kirstie Alley, grandmotherhood wasn't just another chapter. It was her happiest chapter. And while the world remembers her for sitcoms, movies, and red carpets, her grandchildren will remember her simply as the loving, funny, larger-than-life Nana who adored them beyond measure. By the 2000s, Kirstie Alley's career had shifted into a new phase. While she was no longer the TV queen of the 1980s and 90s, she reinvented herself with reality television, comedy, and candid interviews that kept her in the spotlight. In 2005, she starred in Fat Actress, a Showtime comedy that poked fun at her own struggles with weight and Hollywood's obsession with body image. The show was short-lived, but earned her praise for her honesty and self-deprecating humor. A few years later, she documented her personal life in Kirstie Alley's Big Life on A&E, opening up about family, dieting, and her unusual household filled with animals. One of her biggest later life successes came in 2011 when she joined Dancing with the Stars. Despite initial skepticism about her stamina, Kirstie surprised audiences with her energy, charm, and chemistry with dance partner Maxim Shmerkovsky. She finished in second place, winning over millions of new fans. She later returned for an all-star season, proving she could hold her own on the dance floor. But Kirstie was also known for her outspokenness, something that made her a polarizing figure. Her long-time involvement with the Church of Scientology drew criticism, with some fans questioning her loyalty to the controversial religion. In the later years of her life, her political views, particularly her support for Donald Trump, put her at the center of heated debates online. Kirstie didn't back down, though. She once said, "I've never been afraid to say what I think. Love me or hate me, I'm always going to speak my truth." Despite her public battles, privately, Kirstie was focused on family. She spent much of her later life in Clearwater, Florida, where she lived near the Scientology headquarters, but also remained close to her children and grandchildren. Then, in December 2022, came the shocking news. Kirstie Alley had passed away at age 71 after a short and private battle with colon cancer. Her family revealed that the disease had only been discovered shortly before her death. In a joint statement, her children True and Lillie wrote, "We are sad to inform you that our incredible, fierce, and loving mother has passed away after a battle with cancer only recently discovered. She was surrounded by her closest family. Our mother's zest and passion for life, her children, grandchildren, and her many animals was unmatched and inspires us to live life to the fullest, just as she did. Tributes poured in from across Hollywood. Her Look Who's Talking co-star and lifelong friend John Travolta wrote, "Kirstie was one of the most special relationships I've ever had. I love you, Kirstie. I know we'll see each other again." Jamie Lee Curtis, who worked with her on Scream Queens, called her a beautiful, hilarious, and warm soul. Fans around the world flooded social media with memories of her performances and her bold, outspoken personality. For many, Kirstie's legacy wasn't just her Emmy-winning role on Cheers or her hit films. It was the fact that she lived unapologetically on her own terms, and that through all the ups and downs, she never stopped being a mother, a grandmother, and, in her words, a woman who loved to make people laugh. Her passing marked the end of an era, but through her children, her grandchildren, and her unforgettable work, Kirstie Alley's spirit continues to shine. When Kirstie Alley passed away in December 2022, her children, William True Stevenson, and Lillie Price Stevenson, suddenly found themselves in the public eye. Fans who had watched Kirstie's career wondered what would happen to the children she had so fiercely protected. William True Stevenson, born in 1992, is now in his early 30s. Known as True to family and friends, he has lived most of his life out of the spotlight. He married young at just 20 years old in 2012, a decision that drew media attention, but one that Kirstie defended with pride. She told reporters, "People said he's too young. I got married at 24. If you find love, you find love. I completely support him." In 2014, True welcomed his first child, making Kirstie a grandmother. Over the next few years, he gave her multiple grandchildren who quickly became the center of her universe. True has kept his family life private, rarely appearing in the media. Friends describe him as grounded and focused on fatherhood, choosing a simple, steady life away from Hollywood. Kirstie once said about her son, "True has always had a good head on his shoulders. He never cared about the fame or the spotlight. What mattered to him was building a real life, family, love, home, and I couldn't be prouder." Today, True is devoted to raising his children, who are Kirstie's legacy as much as any movie or TV role. Though he doesn't live publicly, his kids represent the continuation of her family line. And for fans, the bittersweet reality is that Kirstie's grandchildren will grow up knowing her through stories, memories, and the work she left behind. Lillie Price Stevenson, born in 1994, has walked a slightly different path. In her late 20s now, she's more visible than her brother, sharing glimpses of her life on social media. Lillie has shown interest in fashion, design, and photography, creative outlets that reflect her own style and independence. Her life, however, has not been without pain. In 2014, at just 20 years old, Lillie's boyfriend, Nick Trella, was killed in a motorcycle accident in Los Angeles. The loss devastated her, and Kirstie rushed to support her daughter through the grief. Friends said Kirstie dropped everything to be at Lillie's side, calling her daughter's survival of that period one of her proudest moments. Lillie slowly rebuilt her life after Nick's passing. She found strength in her family, friends, and her creative work. In recent years, she has posted heartfelt tributes to her late boyfriend, while also honoring her mother's memory after her death. In one message, she wrote, "Mom taught me to live life out loud, to love fiercely, and to laugh even in the darkest times. That's the gift she left me, and it's what I'll carry with me forever." Unlike many celebrity children, neither True nor Lillie pursued acting careers. Both preferred quieter, private lives outside of the spotlight. True built his own family, and Lillie has pursued personal passions while keeping her circle small. After Kirstie's death, both children issued a joint statement that reflected their love and admiration. Our mother's zest and passion for life, her children, grandchildren, and her many animals was unmatched, and inspires us to live life to the fullest, just as she did. For fans, the story of Kirstie Alley's kids is not about Hollywood fame or chasing stardom, but about love, resilience, and survival. William True carries her legacy through her grandchildren, while Lillie carries her lessons and creativity forward in her own life. In the end, perhaps that was Kirstie's greatest achievement. Not the Emmys, not the Golden Globes, not even the hit roles in Cheers or Look Who's Talking, but the children and grandchildren who will remember her not as a celebrity, but as mom and as Nana. Her family is her truest legacy, and through True and Lillie, that legacy continues. Asterisk. Kirstie Alley's life was filled with laughter, controversy, triumph, and love. To the world, she was Rebecca Howe on Cheers, the voice of Look Who's Talking, and a bold, outspoken star who was never afraid to speak her mind. But behind the lights and cameras, she was something much greater, a mother and grandmother who poured her heart into her family. Her children, William True and Lillie, grew up in a world shaped by both privilege and pressure. Yet they were always surrounded by Kirstie's fierce devotion and her determination to protect them from the downsides of fame. Today they live quietly, outside the spotlight, carrying her legacy not in Hollywood, but in the everyday lives they've built. True raises his children, giving Kirstie the grandchildren she cherished, while Lillie honors her mother's memory through creativity, resilience, and love. In the end, Kirstie's greatest role wasn't on a stage or a screen. It was in the lives of her children and grandchildren, the people who will remember her not as a star, but simply as mom and as Nana. Her story reminds us that fame fades, but family endures. And through True and Lillie, Kirstie Alley's spirit lives on. Thank you for watching. If this video moved you and you want more stories about the lives behind the legends, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new upload. And tell us in the comments, what do you think is Kirstie Alley's greatest legacy? Her unforgettable roles or the family she left behind?